Hello and welcome to Addicts Anonymous again. This is Dawn D Part 2 for everybody that was just watching Dawn D Part 1. We had a little technical difficulties, but we are back. Hi, Dawn. How have you been? It's been a long time.
It's been about 60 seconds. I think I got sweaty with that whole thing.
So I think if we're not mistaken, we were just talking about this, that we left off that I was saying that addiction was a lonely place to be. It was somewhere around in that where we left off.
Yeah. We were talking about the end of my drinking, I think. And then I said I wasn't going to drink, and then I would drink again. And I didn't know how not to. And there were some days that I woke up and I was disappointed. Shit, I have to do this again. I didn't want to kill myself, but I didn't want to be alive either. And yeah, so what I was saying before is that my last night drinking wasn't that it wasn't that big of a deal. I felt lonely. I felt the cold wind blowing through my gut, and I was drinking the same thing that I always drank with these fucking losers that I drank with, and I drove home probably drunk. And I called that woman, the one who had gotten sober, the one who drank worse than I did. And I had seen the way she changed. And she was all on fire about AA. And so I called her, and I don't remember what I said. I think I cried. And she took me to a meeting the next day. And
were you receptive to the meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I had been to a whole bunch of meetings before with my grandmother, so it was familiar. This particular meeting was smaller than the meetings I would go to with my grandmother. It was a circle of chairs facing each other with nothing in between, if I remember correctly. And they went around the room and people talked, and I did not introduce myself as a newcomer. And I knew the memorized prayers, and it was more of my armor.
Why didn't you introduce yourself as a newcomer? Were you scared?
Yeah. And
what were you scared of?
How can I have my shit together if I'm a newcomer at this meeting? Because I have that armor.
So you what did you care about? The other people's opinions of you?
Of course.
Yeah.
I cared about what other people thought of me. I probably didn't want to be there. Didn't believe that I was an alcoholic, even though I had said previously to people, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, give me another beer.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what was going to happen if I went there. I thought they were going to take my alcohol away and my life was going to suck. So I didn't want them to think that I was new, or they didn't know what was going on, or I don't know. I don't know what I thought would happen, but I was afraid. Okay. And I went, and people were talking about things that I would never say out loud, like disclosing things about themselves, and I was all.
Give me an example.
Oh God. I mean, I could make something up that gives the idea, because I don't remember exactly.
That's fine. Give something that gives some type of context.
Someone stealing money out of her mom's purse, right? The things that we do to get drunk and to get high. Until that point in my life, I was not disclosing anything vulnerable. I was not transparent. I didn't talk about my feelings. I wouldn't admit that I was wrong. I didn't take responsibility for anything. My behavior was shifty. And these people were being forthright with their feelings and their experiences, and they didn't seem ashamed, and nobody stoned them or kicked them out. It was, people laughed at things, and I was like, I can't believe this. And I felt comfortable there. I mean, as comfortable as I could feel. It was, and this was a long time ago. So these are like curated memories. I don't actually know if it happened exactly the way I'm describing it, but
It was something to that effect, most likely.
yeah. I mean, if you hook me up to a lie detector right now, it would say I'm telling the truth because I believe everything that I'm telling you. But I had it was an empowering experience and eye-opening, and having these people talking about the way they drank or the way they used drugs and the things that they did and that pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, that shit was like a secret. You don't talk about that. I learned as a kid, you don't talk about that. You don't go tell people about our business. And so here were these people who were telling their business. And I have always wanted to be that person. I have always wanted to disclose. Like, I want to be authentic. I want to tell all the stories. I want to talk about things that don't come up in polite conversation. I want the taboo, juicy stuff. And I'm that person. I'm like, come sit next to me if you want to talk about that. I'm totally that person. And I am more so now that I'm sober. And so I felt compelled to go back because of these people. And they were so friendly. Yeah, I didn't introduce myself as a newcomer, but they knew. And one woman whose name I don't remember, but I can picture her face. She came up to me after the meeting and was like loading me up with literature. In fact, this book, this Alcoholics Anonymous book, is the same one I have had since 19 whatever my sobriety date is, 1992. And it's got like shit falling out of it and highlights and notes, and this is my history, my clean and sober history.
Yeah.
And this book holder was my grandmother's.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, and this, I mean, I feel kind of teary about it. Like, this is so important to me because AA is sacred to me. It's like, I don't know. I'm not a religious person, but some people, their religious spaces are everything. And for me, that's what this 12-step program is. It's everything. Because
I love AA. Like, one of the things is, so Addicts Anonymous has their own 10 steps and their own 10 traditions. But the thing is, I got so much inspiration from Bill W. and what he did. He envisioned a group for, alcoholics, etc. So I just envisioned a group for everyone, including gamblers, sex addicts, video game addicts. Because even though there's Narcotics Anonymous, that doesn't talk about sex or gambling or stuff like that. So I was very much inspired by AA and their 12 steps. It's a great thing. It obviously has helped millions of people. I think they say there's 2 million members worldwide for AA.
Yeah, I don't know what the updated information is. And with Zoom, I'm astounded at how all of the 12-step groups just jumped right on and started carrying the message continually virtually.
Yeah.
And I know people currently who have never been to an in-person meeting, who have just gotten clean or sober or whatever addiction, have taken care of that. That's not the right phrase, but anyway, who go to virtual meetings anywhere in the world. I myself have gone to meetings all over the world at any time of day. I have people in my life now currently that I've never met before, but I've met them in virtual meetings. And
me too. This group has been great. You're definitely, I'm making you come to one of our meetings. It's a great group of people that come, and same thing, you get to meet people from all over the world.
Yeah, and that's great. I always wanted community.
Exactly.
Right, way back then, when I wanted to tell the truth and wanted to disclose everything. And I don't mean like barstool disclosure, which I also did. I was like, oh, and then this happened to me and my childhood. I definitely did some of that, but this is real and authentic and useful. Right? I get to tell my story and share it, and someone else gets benefited from it. And so I don't have any sick secrets anymore. I don't have anything that I'm not willing to discuss. I don't have anything that I'm not willing to share if I think it's going to be helpful to someone else.
That's great.
That's what I learned here.
And that's one of the things that they also learned in AA, not to keep going on about AA. It's funny, people think that I may not be, or I might be against it since I started my own group. And it's like, no, I think you can learn from everybody. I learned from NA, I learned from AA, I'm going to learn from OA. Eventually, I'm going to learn from Gamblers Anonymous, GA. But yeah, that's one of the things I think is great, is just trying to learn from everything. You know what I mean?
And it's, it's been around for a while. It's had success.
1939.
And certainly, yes.
Well, 1935, the book was published in 1939. So there's two dates. It's 2 dates.
And there's plenty wrong with AA too. Like
of course. That's what I said. Maybe I can kind of update. You mentioned community. In our step 2, part of it is the 4 pillars of our program, which is self-love, discipline, hard work, and community. So community is one of the 4 pillars, so that those 4 things are what we build our program on top of.
That's great, because community, I think that connection piece is
vital. It's vital.
Yeah, for sure. And I have, I've been really active for the 29 years that I've been sober. I've been really active in AA and in, being of service and sponsoring people and staying connected in that way, because I know, for me, I know that the longer I go without drinking or taking drugs, the easier it is for me to forget. Oh, it wasn't that bad. The way my brain works is that I'm going to pick the memories that stand out, and I might just gloss over the vomit on the sliding glass door because I couldn't make it outside fast enough. I might miss that one, and I might instead think about the parties where I was entertaining and fun, and it might seem like a good idea to have a drink. And I don't ever want to be the person that I was before I got sober. I don't ever want to be that person again. And I get to watch people change. I get to watch, the way I described that woman who took me to my first meeting, that she got sober and her eyes got bright and her skin cleared up and she was funny and she smiled and she was a totally different person. I do want to say that she didn't stay sober and she died drinking.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. And that happens, right? A lot of people don't stay clean, don't stay sober. Like 2 nights ago, someone I know drank who's been sober for a little while. And that seems to be more common than not. And what I was going to say earlier is that, AA is not the only way, right? So we have this AA lore that someone went, they don't come around anymore. So they probably are drinking, which may not be the case. They may have found another way to stay sober, another way to do it, because that happens. But for me, I'm going to stay, as they say, in the center of the lifeboat. I'm going to stay connected. I'm going to go to I go to meetings. I have gone to at least 1 meeting a week for 29 years.
That's great. You got to keep up. I believe in keeping up with some type of program. As far as me talking to anyone in the group, you do whatever you want. You know what I mean? If you don't want to work a program, don't work a program. But from what I've seen, more often than not, people not working programs are relapsing. I saw it in my own group. 2 girls relapsed, and both of them think that they don't need steps. And it's like, the steps aren't that bad. It's just kind of giving you a little bit of structure
Mhm.
and guidance.
Well, and I mean, there's neuroscience behind it,
Exactly. I
that
studied Buddhism. So Buddhism is the study of the brain, and it's an amazing thing that you have to learn yourself.
yeah. And I didn't come with those skills. And there were people who said, oh, you're being brainwashed. Well, guess what? My brain needed washing. And I changed the way I do things. I work the steps. I have this introspective practice. Every day I pray and I meditate. I pray to whatever, like, I don't even know. People talk about God and higher power. I can't explain that. That's not my area of expertise, but by praying, it changes me on the inside. And so it doesn't matter. Sometimes I pray to my dead grandmother,
Okay.
and and I meditate and I do intentional journaling, like an inventory every fucking day. Even if it's the last thing I do before I get into my bed, like, I make a commitment to myself that that's going to happen every day. Even if it's just half-assed, because it's important to me to have this consistency, because it changes me. And the way I think is different than it was when I first got sober. And I utilize sponsorship, and I utilize the group, and I reach out to other sober women. And it's become such an integral part of my life. It's just who I am. And I think it makes me a better person, and it helps me with my work, because I'm also a life coach, and I use the steps. I use the whole, sober experience. Like, my clients aren't necessarily sober, but I talk to them about, introspective, and being introspective, and looking at not only at our faults, defects, maladjustments, whatever we want to call them, but also, overcoming fear and negative self-talk and moving forward. And all of that, I got that from being sober.
And you've got to do what works for you. At the end of the day, we just basically said it a few times, I think. Everyone's different, therefore everyone works a different program.
Right.
I say that your recovery is your recovery, and no one can tell you otherwise. If you need medication, you take medication, that's your recovery. If the doctor's
Right.
prescribing it and it's okay by the doctor, then you take it.
It's none of my business, right? It's none of my business
Exactly.
how other people want to do it.
Exactly. So your recovery is your own.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to use, if it's plant medicine, stuff like that, it doesn't matter. Your recovery is your own,
Mhm.
but the steps help. That's all I could say about them, is the steps help. I
It helped
encourage people
me.
to take a look at the 12 steps, take a look at the Addicts Anonymous 10 steps, because maybe one's better than the other for you, and everyone's going to be different. Everyone's going to be different.
There's in my home group, which is, the meeting that I'm dedicated to go to every week and participate in and do service in. There is a controversy that's stirred up right now about, whether or not people who do service in my group need to be clean and sober. And it's an interesting discussion, because, for myself, I'm not interested in monitoring other people's sobriety. I'm not interested in dictating, who can have a medical marijuana card and who cannot. Like, that's not my job. I don't want that. But it's definitely come up, and it's a point of contention right now. We're going to have a business meeting this afternoon.
Oh, we have
So,
ours too. Our group has our business meeting. I pushed it back till 5 because you and I were talking.
oh, well, I'm glad that I got to come in before that. But
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we did this.
I don't know what's going to come out of that. And all I can do is share my experience, right? Share what I know from the literature, because that's what I base my position on, and not telling other people how to be. Letting everybody come to their own understanding of what works for them. That's just my opinion. And, it's certainly not everyone's. And
No, certainly not. I think your opinion's awesome.
Thanks.
I completely agree with you. So absolutely awesome. But I know other people are going to disagree, and that's
Yeah.
okay. And I like hearing those people also, because I want to hear both sides. It's good to hear both sides of a story or an argument or just something, maybe a controversy like you're talking about. It's always good to hear both sides.
It's just interesting to see, there will be people on either side who will be angry after we have our discussion, after we vote, whatever decision the group comes to. That's the, what we call the group conscience.
Yep,
And
exactly.
in theory, we go along with it. We go along with the group conscience because that's what the group has decided, or, a majority of the group has decided. And we can bring it up again later. We can vote on it again, whatever. But, in order to be a cohesive group and to have unity, you vote on something and then you move forward. And I'm worried that that's not going to happen, because personalities from outside of the meetings come in, and then we have, everyone behaving the way they behave, and it will be an interesting afternoon.
Okay. So what's the biggest lesson you've learned? And what advice would you give to our listeners and viewers? It's a thinker, right?
Yeah. I should have gotten a heads up on this before this podcast. The biggest lesson I have learned is that because I think it does not necessarily.
Say that one more time. It kind of broke up a little bit.
Just because I think something does not necessarily make it true. And that's, like being open to different perspectives and learning and admitting when I'm wrong. All of that, it falls under that umbrella. Just because I think something, I'm not the center of the universe. I could be wrong. And I've learned that as a result of being sober and working the steps.
Is there any examples of when you had to kind of remember that?
I mean, all the time. Like, I have opinions about what other people do and what they think and how they act, and reminding myself that I could be wrong. And in, having disagreements with people, I try to practice, oh, you may be right. Let me think about that. And it
Always.
keeps me from acting out. It keeps me from hurting people's feelings. It keeps me from imposing my views on someone else. So yeah, I think that is a big lesson. And, being able to look at when I'm wrong and admitting that I'm wrong, that falls under that too. And that's hard. It's hard not to be blaming or defensive. I mean, I grew up in families that didn't talk about feelings, and you don't ask questions. You just go along. Nobody's whoever's got the most power is never wrong. And learning how to do that differently, learning how to be softer and gentler and open, receptive. So just because I think it does not make it true.
Awesome.
What was the next question?
The last question is going to be, do you have any advice for the listeners and viewers?
Advice is a
Advice.
scary word. I have a daughter, and she's 17 years old, and she is the most self-aware teenager I've ever met. She is emotionally intelligent. She can talk about her feelings. She sets really good boundaries. And I'm convinced that some of my parenting has something to do with that. And what I say to her, so here's the answer to the question. What I say to her is, I trust that you will make the decision that is best for you. That's my advice. I trust that you will make the decision that is best for you. Because I don't know what's best for anyone.
So the listeners need to dig deep down inside and really.
Fuck yeah. And it's hard. It's hard. You know, maybe in this moment, if you're batshit crazy, you can't make decisions that are good for you. So don't. You know, don't make a decision. And sure, you know, you can seek counsel from people who seem like they know more. But I don't, you know, if I'm that person and somebody comes to me for advice, I just model the behavior that I want to see. That's how I live. It's how I do everything. I model the behavior that I want to see. And so, you know, I'm trying to act right, take responsibility for myself, make amends for bad behavior, not meddle in other people's business. I just try to make good choices, and it's not always going to be good for other people. You know, I hurt people's feelings and I make people mad, and that's real, that's human, but I do my best not to. And I practice these principles in all my affairs, and I try to do the next right thing, what's right in front of me, do the next right thing. And that's, I model that for others. I model that for my daughter. Like, I'm going to show you what I would do. I'll share my experience. I'll tell you what I did in a situation like that. I'll do that. But just because I think it does not make it true. And I don't know what's best for everyone. So I trust that you will make the decision that is best for you. And if you don't know what to do, sometimes doing nothing is the best thing.
That's great. That's great. I want to thank you for coming on today.
Yay!
I think it went well.
Thank you, Jim.
No problem. So to everybody that's watching and listening, if you like what you heard and saw, go below, give us a subscription, subscribe to us. Also give us a like. Go to our Facebook page. Give us a like there as well if you like what you heard. Go to our Facebook group, and under the events tab are a ton of Zoom meetings that we have. We do them nightly, so check those out. Definitely have a great group of people and would love to see some new faces there. So that's all I have for today, and until next time.